As the clock struck midnight on January 1st, 2020, the world was captivated by the promise of a new decade. The rise of artificial intelligence, the global push for sustainability, and the ever-changing landscape of geopolitics had everyone's attention. Yet, in the secluded corners of North Korea, a different kind of story was unfolding. A story that has been written in the shadows for decades, far from the world's prying eyes. We call it the Hermit Kingdom. This isolation is not a choice made by its citizens, but a grim reality, enforced by an authoritarian regime. While the rest of the world is connected through the internet, social media, and global markets, North Koreans find themselves in a state of perpetual darkness, both literally and metaphorically. Imagine, if you will, the 1970s, a time when the world was undergoing significant changes. From the end of the Vietnam War to the oil crisis, North Korea, too, was at a crossroads. But it chose a path that led it further into isolation. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the situation has only intensified. The country's economy is a fraction of its neighbors. Its people are among the poorest in the world, and its policies have led to crippling sanctions. But what happens when a nation is cut off from the rest of the world? What are the economic implications of such extreme isolation? In a world where information is currency, North Korea has chosen to be bankrupt. But this isn't just a story of a nation and its people. It's a story of how this isolation impacts the global stage, financially, politically, and ethically. So who bears the brunt of this darkness? It's not just the political leaders or the military elite, but the everyday citizens of North Korea. These are people who have never experienced the freedom of open markets, the thrill of entrepreneurship, or the benefits of global trade. They are the silent majority, living under a regime that decides their fate, controls their livelihood, and suppresses their dreams. Over the years, many have tried to escape this impenetrable darkness, risking life and limb for a glimpse of the outside world. But what they leave behind is a nation stuck in a time warp, a financial black hole that affects not just them, but has ripple effects across global markets. Hold on tight as we delve into the enigma that is North Korea and explore how its self-imposed darkness has far-reaching implications that the world can no longer afford to ignore. In the heart of East Asia, surrounded by economic giants like China and South Korea, lies a nation that seems to have stopped the hands of time, North Korea. While its neighbors have embraced globalization, North Korea remains an enigma, a relic of the Cold War era. But what does this isolation mean for its economy? Let's start with some hard numbers. As of 2019, North Korea's estimated gross domestic product stood at a mere $28.5 billion, according to the CIA World Factbook. To put that into perspective, South Korea's GDP for the same year was $1.6 trillion. The disparity is staggering, and it's not just a matter of size, it's a matter of policy. North Korea operates under a system known as Yuche, a self-reliant socialist framework that emphasizes independence from external forces. While the idea of self-reliance may sound noble, in practice, it has led to a closed economy that is largely cut off from international trade. The country's primary trading partner is China, accounting for nearly 90% of its trade volume. However, even this relationship is strained due to international sanctions and North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Trade deficits are another glaring issue. North Korea imports far more than it exports, leading to a negative trade balance. In 2018, the country's exports amounted to approximately $220 million, while imports stood at $2.6 billion, according to the Observatory of Economic Complexity. This deficit is primarily financed through remittances from North Koreans working abroad and foreign aid, both of which are dwindling resources. But the story doesn't end here. Beneath the surface of this closed economy lies a thriving black market. Officially, the North Korean won is the currency in use, but on the streets, the US dollar and Chinese yuan are the preferred currencies. This underground economy is a lifeline for many North Koreans, providing them with goods and services that are otherwise unavailable. From food to electronics, the black market is a testament to the resilience of the North Korean people, but it's also a symptom of a failing economic system. So what keeps this fragile economy afloat? The answer lies in its natural resources. North Korea is rich in minerals like coal, iron ore, and rare earth elements. These resources are often illegally exported, bypassing international sanctions. However, this is a double-edged sword. While it provides the regime with much-needed revenue, it also perpetuates the cycle of isolation and economic stagnation. As we peel back the layers of North Korea's economic policies, we find a system that is not just closed, but is actively contributing to its own isolation. The numbers speak for themselves. Low GDP, high trade deficits, and a thriving black market. But these are not just statistics. They are the building blocks of a nation's future, or in North Korea's case, the lack thereof. In a world where democracy and capitalism have become the prevailing systems, North Korea stands as a stark contrast. A regime that has maintained its grip on power through a combination of military might and ideological indoctrination. But what are the financial implications of this authoritarian rule? Let's start with military spending. North Korea has one of the largest standing armies in the world, with an estimated 1.28 million active-duty military personnel as of 2020. The military budget is a closely guarded secret, but estimates suggest that the country spends approximately 25% of its GDP on defense. That's a staggering amount, especially when you consider that the global average is around 2.2%. So, where does this money come from? The answer is complex and involves a mix of legal and illegal activities. From arms sales to cyber warfare, the North Korean government has found various ways to fund its military ambitions. However, this focus on military might come at a significant cost: public welfare. In a country where the GDP per capita is estimated to be around $1,700, the lack of investment in public services is glaringly evident. From healthcare to education, the social infrastructure is woefully inadequate. Malnutrition rates are high, and access to clean water is limited. The regime's focus on military spending has created a society where basic human needs are often neglected. But what happens when people try to escape this iron grip? The stories of defectors provide a chilling insight into the risks involved. Crossing the heavily fortified border is a life-threatening endeavor, and those who are caught face severe punishment, including forced labor camps or even execution. Despite these risks, an estimated 1,000 North Koreans defect each year, according to the South Korean Ministry of Unification. These defectors often leave behind families, risking not just their lives, but also the lives of their loved ones. The financial implications of these defections are hard to quantify, but are undoubtedly significant. From the loss of labor to the cost of border security, the regime spends considerable resources to prevent defections. Moreover, these escape stories serve as a black mark on North Korea's international reputation, further isolating the country and making foreign investment even less likely. As we unravel the complexities of North Korea's authoritarian regime, we find a government that is willing to sacrifice the well-being of its people for the sake of maintaining power. The financial toll of this iron grip is immense, from the bloated military budget to the neglect of public services. And yet, the regime remains steadfast in its approach, seemingly indifferent to the suffering it causes. How have these sanctions affected trade, and what does this mean for the future of North Korea? The answers may surprise you. As the world watches North Korea with a mix of fascination and trepidation, one word often dominates the conversation: sanctions. These economic restrictions, imposed by the United Nations, the United States, and other global powers, aim to cripple North Korea's nuclear ambitions. But what is the financial fallout of these sanctions? And how do they perpetuate the cycle of darkness enveloping the Hermit Kingdom? Let's start with the numbers. According to estimates, North Korea has lost approximately $4 billion in trade revenue due to sanctions. That's a significant blow for an economy with a GDP estimated at around $28 billion. The sanctions have targeted various sectors, from coal and textiles to seafood and technology. The result? A shrinking economy, with an estimated contraction of 8.5% in 2020 alone, according to South Korea's central bank. But it's not just the loss of trade that's concerning. Sanctions have also led to a decrease in foreign aid, further exacerbating the country's economic woes. Humanitarian aid, often exempt from sanctions, has also been affected due to the logistical challenges of operating in North Korea. The U.S. World Food Program, for example, has reported difficulties in delivering essential food items, leading to increased rates of malnutrition and food insecurity. So who bears the brunt of these sanctions? Unfortunately, it's the ordinary citizens. While the regime continues to fund its military endeavors, the public faces shortages of essential goods, from medicine to fuel. The black market has flourished as a result, but at the cost of skyrocketing prices, making basic necessities unaffordable for many. And what about the regime? Have the sanctions succeeded in changing its behavior? The answer is complex. While North Korea has engaged in diplomatic talks and even summits with global leaders, its nuclear program remains largely intact. The regime has found ways to circumvent sanctions, from illicit ship-to-ship transfers to cyber attacks aimed at stealing funds. In essence, the sanctions have had a limited impact on the government's actions, but a profound effect on the economy and the well-being of its citizens. As we delve deeper into the financial labyrinth of North Korea, we find a country caught in a vicious cycle. Sanctions, intended to curb the regime's nuclear ambitions, have instead led to economic contraction and human suffering. And yet, the international community remains hesitant to lift these restrictions, fearing the potential consequences of a nuclear-armed North Korea. In our next chapter, we'll examine the human cost of these policies. How have the economic challenges translated into social issues, and what are the quantifiable impacts? The numbers are staggering, and they paint a grim picture of a country in crisis. As we navigate through the labyrinthine complexities of North Korea's economy and international relations, we must not lose sight of the most tragic aspect of this story: the human cost. The financial numbers and political maneuvers may capture headlines, but behind them lies a population living in conditions that are almost unimaginable in the 21st century. Let's start with the most glaring issue: poverty. According to estimates from various international organizations, approximately 60% of North Korea's population lives below the poverty line. That's over 15 million people struggling to meet basic needs. But what does poverty look like in a country shrouded in secrecy? It's not just about low income. It's about a lack of access to essential services like healthcare, education, and even clean water. The numbers are staggering. Reports indicate that nearly 30% of children under the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition. Hospitals lack basic medical supplies, and power outages are frequent, leading to life-threatening situations. The World Health Organization has pointed out that North Korea faces a shortage of essential medicines, with the situation exacerbated by international sanctions. And then there's the issue of basic amenities. According to the World Bank, less than 60% of the population has access to clean water and sanitation. In rural areas, this figure drops dramatically, leading to a rise in waterborne diseases. The lack of electricity is another critical issue, with rolling blackouts being a common occurrence. Imagine living in a world where electricity is a luxury, not a given. But the human cost isn't just about physical well-being. It's also about the stifling of human potential. The regime's stranglehold on information and freedom has led to a population that is isolated from the rest of the world. Education is heavily censored, and the curriculum focuses on ideological indoctrination rather than critical thinking. The result? A generation growing up with limited exposure to the outside world, curtailed aspirations, and a distorted view of reality. As we peel back the layers of North Korea's financial and political landscape, we find a society that is paying a high price for its government's actions and the international community's responses. The human cost is not just a set of statistics. It's a living, breathing tragedy unfolding in real time. Next, we'll delve into one of the most enigmatic aspects of North Korea: its information blackout. How does controlling information serve the regime's agenda, and what is the financial cost of this censorship? As we venture deeper into the enigma that is North Korea, we encounter a phenomenon that is both perplexing and chilling: the information blackout. In an age where data flows like water across borders, North Korea stands as a fortress of silence. But this silence is not just a cultural quirk. It's a calculated strategy with far-reaching financial implications. Let's start with the basics. North Korea has one of the most restrictive media environments in the world. The government controls all domestic news outlets, and foreign media is virtually non-existent. Internet access is limited to a select few, and even then, it's a domestic network isolated from the World Wide Web. The result? A population that is largely uninformed about global events, technological advancements, and even basic scientific knowledge. But what is the financial cost of this information void? At first glance, it might seem like a non-issue, but the ramifications are profound. By stifling the free flow of information, North Korea is essentially cutting itself off from the global marketplace of ideas and innovations. In a world where knowledge is power, and power translates to economic strength, this self-imposed isolation is a financial handicap. Consider the tech industry, a sector that thrives on innovation and global collaboration. North Korea's information blackout means that its tech companies are operating in a vacuum, unable to keep pace with global trends. This has a cascading effect on other sectors, from manufacturing to healthcare, that rely on technological advancements to stay competitive. The cost of this lost opportunity is difficult to quantify, but it's undoubtedly significant. And let's not forget the impact on foreign investments. In a globalized world, information is a valuable commodity. Investors rely on transparent data to make informed decisions. North Korea's lack of transparency makes it an unattractive destination for foreign capital, further isolating the country from international markets. According to estimates, North Korea's inward foreign direct investment is one of the lowest in the world, standing at a mere $1.5 billion as of 2019. But the information blackout has another, more insidious financial cost: the perpetuation of a black market for information. Smuggled DVDs, USB drives, and even radio broadcasts have become a lifeline to the outside world for many North Koreans. While this underground market provides a glimpse of freedom, it also serves as a risky and expensive endeavor for those daring to seek the truth. It's crucial to understand that the information blackout is not just a violation of human rights, it's a financial straitjacket that is suffocating the country's economic potential. How does this clandestine market operate, and what are its financial repercussions? The answers may be as complex as they are unsettling. As we peel back the layers of North Korea's enigmatic society, we find ourselves in the labyrinthine world of its underground economy, a realm that operates in the shadows, yet is an indispensable part of the country's financial fabric. This underground market is not just a symptom of North Korea's isolation, it's also a cause and a perpetuator of its enduring darkness. First, let's talk numbers. While official data is scarce, estimates suggest that the underground economy could account for up to 30% of North Korea's GDP. That's a staggering figure, especially when you consider that the country's official GDP is estimated to be around $28.5 billion as of 2019. This means that the black market could be worth as much as $8.5 billion, a sum that cannot be ignored. So what exactly comprises this underground economy? At its core are goods smuggled into the country, ranging from basic necessities like food and medicine to luxury items and even foreign currency. But it's not just about material goods. Services like unauthorized private transportation and underground medical care also thrive in this shadowy ecosystem. The financial implications are manifold. On one hand, this underground economy serves as a lifeline for many North Koreans, providing access to goods and services that are otherwise unavailable. On the other hand, it's a double-edged sword. The black market undermines the government's economic policies and disrupts official trade channels, leading to loss of tax revenue and creating economic imbalances. But here's where it gets interesting. The North Korean government is not just a passive observer of this underground activity. In many cases, it's an active participant. Reports suggest that state-sanctioned organizations are deeply involved in smuggling operations, using them as a source of much-needed foreign currency. This creates a complex and paradoxical relationship between the state and the black market, each feeding off the other in a cycle of financial codependency. The international ramifications are equally significant. The underground economy serves as a conduit for evading global sanctions, allowing North Korea to sustain its military ambitions and nuclear program. This has led to heightened geopolitical tensions, causing fluctuations in global financial markets. For instance, North Korea's nuclear tests in 2017 led to a temporary dip in South Korea's stock market and affected investor sentiment worldwide. North Korea has a financial ecosystem that thrives on secrecy, risk, and the audacity of hope in a land where hope is a scarce commodity. How does this clandestine world impact the global stage, and what are the financial stakes for countries entangled in North Korea's complex web? As we navigate through the intricate maze of North Korea's financial landscape, It's time to zoom out and examine the ripple effects that emanate from this isolated nation, reaching far beyond its borders. The global implications are profound, affecting not just politics, but also financial markets, international trade, and even the stability of currencies. Let's start with the numbers. North Korea's military expenditures are estimated to be around $4 billion annually, which is approximately 15% of its GDP. This is a staggering commitment to military might, especially for a country grappling with economic challenges. But how does this impact the world? Every time North Korea conducts a missile test or engages in provocative actions, global markets hold their breath. For instance, the 2017 missile tests led to a 0.6% drop in Japan's Nikkei 225 and a 1.1% decline in South Korea's KOSPI on the day of the test. These fluctuations may seem minor, but they can result in billions of dollars in market value being wiped out in a single day. The impact extends to commodities as well. Whenever tensions escalate, there's a surge in the prices of safe haven assets like gold, and a decline in riskier investments like oil. This creates a domino effect, influencing markets and investor behavior worldwide. But it's not just about financial markets. Let's talk trade. North Korea's isolationist policies and the sanctions imposed upon it have led to a significant loss in trade opportunities. The country's trade deficit was estimated to be around $1.7 billion in 2019, a figure that has likely worsened due to stricter sanctions. This trade vacuum affects neighboring countries and trading partners, creating economic imbalances and missed opportunities for growth. And then there's the issue of currency manipulation. North Korea has been accused of engaging in illicit activities, including counterfeiting foreign currencies. The scale of these operations is hard to quantify, but their existence poses a threat to the financial stability of the targeted countries, and by extension, the global economy. The financial stakes are high, not just for North Korea, but for the international community. What happens in this isolated nation doesn't stay confined within its borders. It reverberates across oceans and continents, affecting us all in ways we may not even realize. The story we've unraveled is not just about a country cut off from the world. It's a case study in how isolationism can cripple a nation's financial and social well-being. From its closed economy to its iron grip on information, from its underground markets to its global implications, North Korea serves as a cautionary tale for the world. The numbers speak for themselves. A GDP that's a fraction of its neighbors, a trade deficit in the billions, and a military budget that eats up a significant portion of its income. These are not just statistics. They are indicators of a nation in perpetual crisis. But what does this mean for the rest of the world? The financial repercussions are far-reaching. Market fluctuations, commodity price shifts, and trade imbalances are just the tip of the iceberg. The real cost is human. The poverty, malnutrition, and lack of basic amenities in North Korea are a stark reminder that financial policies are not just about numbers, they're about people. So, where do we go from here? The international community has a role to play. Sanctions, while necessary, are not the sole answer. Diplomacy, humanitarian aid, and international oversight are crucial components in solving this complex puzzle. Financial institutions, governments, and NGOs need to work together to create sustainable solutions that can bring North Korea out of the darkness and into the global economy. Now, it's essential to remember that understanding North Korea's financial landscape is not just an academic exercise. It's a prerequisite for any meaningful change. The stakes are high, and the world is watching. Will North Korea remain an enigma, or can it be brought into the light? The answer to that question has financial, social, and human implications that will resonate for generations to come.